Evan Brooks never imagined that his first assignment outside the Solar Union would place him in a floating city filled with glowing towers, alien diplomats, and creatures whose footsteps made the floor hum. He had trained for years as a xenocultural analyst, but no training program ever prepared him for Calith Prime, the shining jewel of the galactic concord. It was said that Calith Prime was built on a giant crystal formation that stretched 3 kilometers into the ground. The walls glowed softly. The air shimmered with color, and every corner smelled faintly of something fresh, clean, and unknown. Every species arriving on the station brought their own scents and sounds, making the place feel like a living, breathing market of galaxies. For Evan, it was overwhelming and extremely exciting. He was a junior on the human starship Resolute, barely 26 years old, and still learning how to keep calm in diplomatic situations. He had practiced bowing, greeting, cultural gestures, and even a list of polite, I mean no offense, phrases in 10 languages. His mentor, Dr. Harrow, had warned him many times. First rule, Evan, don't speak unless you think twice. Second rule, don't ask anything without thinking 4 times. Evan had nodded. He understood. Or he thought he did. But as the Resolute docked and he stepped onto the shimmering platform, everything he knew collapsed under a wave of nerves. He was standing among giants. The Calithian guards were tall, armored in smooth silver plates that looked grown instead of forged. The reptilian Threx delegation walked past him with slow, heavy steps, claws clicking against the floor. A group of floating, orb-shaped beings emitted soft musical tones as they spoke to one another. He stared, fascinated. Then he saw them, and that is when his brain simply stopped working. The Illyrians, a race known throughout the Concord as thinkers, diplomats, and masters of emotional intelligence. Their skin looked almost like polished pearl, shifting with soft colors depending on their mood. Their hair moved like liquid silk even without wind. And their eyes, large, bright, and shaped like diamonds, held layers of emotion most humans could not name. Evan had seen pictures, of course. Every student had. But pictures were nothing compared to the real thing. 3 Illyrian representatives entered the main hall. They walked gracefully, their long robes flowing behind them. The lighting seemed to brighten around them, though Evan could not tell if it was real or just his imagination. And at the center of the group walked Soraya Valthur, the primary diplomatic envoy. She was stunning not in a romantic sense, but in the absolute grace she displayed. Calm, strong, aware of everything around her. She carried herself with a confidence Evan had never seen in any human. He was supposed to be helping with translation devices and seating arrangements. That was it. Nothing complicated. Stay quiet. Stay helpful. Stay professional. But when Soraya walked past him, something in Evan's brain went wrong. Maybe it was lack of sleep. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was the shock of seeing a being so different and so impressive. Or maybe his human mouth just betrayed him, as it often did. Whatever the reason, the moment Soraya paused near him to observe a holographic map, Evan's curiosity mixed with nerves and launched a question straight out of his mouth before he could stop it. If I kissed you, how would you react? Silence. Pure, perfect silence. It felt like the entire hall froze in time. A Threx warrior stopped mid-step. A pair of floating orb beings paused their musical chatter. Even the holographic map in Soraya's hand flickered, as if embarrassed by the sudden tension. Evan felt his soul leave his body. He didn't even understand why he had said it. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't trying to be bold. It was just the first thing his panicked brain grabbed and threw out into the universe. And now the universe wanted revenge. Oh no, Evan whispered to himself. Oh no, 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 why did I say that? His mentor, Dr. Harrow, turned to him slowly, with the expression of a man watching his career burn to ashes in real time. The Illyrian guard straightened, Their skin shifted into a deeper, sharper blue, an alert color. Every human diplomat tensed. But Soraya simply looked at Evan. She didn't look angry. She didn't look offended. In fact, her expression was unreadable. Illyrian faces were calm masks, shaped by centuries of diplomatic training. Soraya stepped closer. Her eyes, glowing faintly silver, studied him with careful precision. She tilted her head slightly, a gesture that could mean curiosity or danger. Evan wasn't sure. "You wish to know how I would react," she said softly. Her voice was smooth, like wind over glass. "No, yes, wait. I mean, there has been a misunderstanding," Evan stammered. He could feel Dr. Harrow burying his face in his hands somewhere behind him. Soraya raised one elegant hand. "Human Evan Brooks," she said, using his full name with almost formal precision. "Are you aware of what a kiss means among Illyrians?" Evan swallowed hard. "No?" Soraya's eyes brightened. "Among our people," she explained calmly, "a kiss is not a romantic gesture. It is a telepathic exchange, a moment where two minds touch, and each sees the other clearly. Every emotion, every memory, every truth." Evan's mind went blank. He knew he had made a terrible mistake, but he hadn't realized it was this terrible. Soraya continued, her tone steady and composed. "To ask how one would react to such an act is not casual. It is a cultural inquiry of trust. A challenge, in some sense. It is normally used between diplomats who wish to test sincerity." Evan's mouth dropped open. I wasn't challenging." "But you asked," Soraya said, her voice still calm but now sharper at the edges. "And therefore the question stands." The alien diplomats around the room murmured. The floating orbs emitted low musical notes of curiosity. Humans exchanged nervous glances. Dr. Harrow whispered urgently, "Evan, do not faint. We need you conscious to apologize properly." But Evan was frozen. Soraya turned to the room and spoke in a voice that carried elegant authority. "As the one addressed with this inquiry, I must consider whether to accept or reject the cultural challenge." Her eyes flicked back to Evan. "And the human who issued it must be prepared for the consequences, whichever they are." Evan's heart was pounding so loudly he was sure everyone could hear it. He wanted to disappear, run away, or maybe rewind time and tape his own mouth shut. But it was too late. He had asked the question, and Soraya Valthier, the most respected Illyrian diplomat on Calith Prime, was now deciding whether to answer it. The room waited. Evan, terrified and sweating, stood frozen under Soraya's unreadable gaze. He had come to Calith Prime to observe diplomacy. Instead, he had accidentally started one of the most delicate diplomatic dilemmas in recent Illyrian memory. And Part 1 ended with Soraya's final words. "Human Evan Brooks, your question has been heard. The answer will be given soon." The hall was silent after Evan's question. Even the hum of the floating lights seemed to pause, waiting. He could feel every gaze on him, both human and alien. His knees shook slightly, and he hoped no one noticed. He tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat, like a bird trapped in a cage. Soraya Valthier, the Illyrian diplomat, remained calm. Her face was a mask of elegance and control, but Evan thought he saw a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. The air between them seemed charged, as if the question itself had left a small spark hovering in the hall. After what felt like an eternity, Soraya finally spoke. Her voice was soft, but each word carried weight. "You asked me, human, how I would react if you kissed me," she began, turning her gaze slowly toward him. "You must understand, the ritual of a kiss among Illyrians is not entertainment. It is sacred." Evan swallowed hard. Sacred? He had not expected sacred. He had expected shock, embarrassment, maybe even a scolding. Not spiritual significance. Soraya continued. "To kiss an Illyrian is to share minds, to see each other's memories emotions, and truths. It is not a casual act. It is a moment of complete vulnerability. Evan's mouth went dry. Complete vulnerability? He whispered. He had studied alien cultures, but he had never expected to be confronted with one this intense. Yes, Soraya said, stepping a little closer. Her presence was calm yet commanding. Evan could feel it like a soft wind brushing against his skin. Even without touching him, and by asking such a question, you have issued a cultural challenge. It is not a question given lightly, human. It is a test of courage, honesty, and respect. Evan's mind raced. Test of courage? I didn't even think before I asked. He could feel Dr. Harrow's glare from behind, warning him silently that his career might end in the next 5 minutes. He wanted to explain, to apologize, to run away, but something inside him told him to stay. Soraya tilted her head slightly. You must understand. The choice to accept or reject this challenge rests with me. But the one who issued it must also be prepared. Are you prepared, human Evan Brooks? Evan thought about running. He thought about screaming. He thought about hiding in the nearest corner and pretending this had never happened. But he also realized that running would make him and humanity look weak. Yes, he said finally, his voice shaking slightly, but with determination. I am prepared. The hall murmured again, but this time the sound was not of shock or fear. It was curiosity. The other diplomats leaned in slightly, eager to see what would happen. Even the floating orbs seemed to vibrate softly, their musical tones echoing like a heartbeat. Soraya's expression softened just a little, and for a moment, she seemed almost pleased. Very well, she said. Then we shall proceed. But understand this, human. The telepathic ritual of the Illyrians is not just an act of curiosity. It is an act of trust. By agreeing, you are allowing me to see your mind and to judge your intentions, your honesty, and your spirit. Evan nodded quickly. Soraya glanced around the hall. Very well. She led him to a small platform in the center of the hall. The platform glowed faintly, and as they stepped onto it, Evan felt the hum of energy beneath his feet. It was subtle, but it made his heart beat faster. He was aware of every movement, every breath, every slight sound around him. Stand here, Soraya instructed, gesturing to marked spots on the platform. Evan complied, trying not to shake. He had no idea what would happen next. Soraya extended her hand. Place your forehead against mine. Evan hesitated. Forehead? That's it? That's the kiss? He leaned forward, pressing his forehead gently against hers. Immediately, he felt a rush of sensation, a flood of emotion that was completely alien. It was not painful, but it was overwhelming. He felt a warmth, a clarity, and an intense focus on everything around him. He could sense Soraya's thoughts, but only a fraction, her attention, her curiosity, her careful calculation. And then, he realized something incredible. He could feel her seeing him. Every memory he had tried to hide, every fear, every hope, every moment he had ever lived, all of it was visible, if only in a faint echo. Evan's breath caught. Soraya's voice was calm, but now tinged with amusement. Yes, human. That is the moment of connection. A truth shared between two minds. A test not of words, but of spirit. He thought about his life, about humanity, about everything he had ever believed in. He thought about how humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, how other species saw them as reckless, emotional, unpredictable. And he realized something important. Humans survived because they cared, because they risked, because they tried, even when the odds were impossible. And in that moment, Evan understood why he had asked the question, not out of arrogance, not out of foolishness, but because humans were curious. Humans were brave. Humans wanted to understand. Soraya seemed to sense the change in him. Her thoughts, her emotions were still partially hidden, but he could feel a subtle shift. Approval. Respect. Perhaps even amusement. The ritual lasted only a few minutes, but for Evan, it felt like hours. When Soraya finally pulled back slightly, he felt drained, but also alive in a way he had never experienced. "You are different, human," she said finally, her eyes meeting his. Most humans would have panicked, run, or lied. But you faced the challenge. You allowed me to see your spirit. That is remarkable. Evan blinked. I didn't know what to expect," he admitted honestly. "I just tried to be myself." Soraya's eyes softened. "And that is exactly what an Illyrian seeks to see. Truth, courage, honesty. You have shown all three." A murmur went through the hall. The other diplomats, who had been watching silently, now whispered to each other. The floating orbs emitted tones of admiration. Even Dr. Harrow looked impressed, though he tried not to show it. Evan felt a wave of relief, but it was mixed with awe. He had survived. He had passed the challenge. And somehow, in the process, he had earned a small measure of respect from one of the most powerful diplomats in the galaxy. Soraya stepped back fully and bowed slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement and approval among Illyrians. "You have done well, human Evan Brooks. Not all would have the courage to face such a test. You have proven that humans, while unpredictable, are also capable of remarkable honesty and bravery." Evan nodded, still processing everything. "Thank you," he said simply. Soraya smiled faintly, a rare expression for her species. "This is only the beginning, human. There is much for your kind to learn, and much for you to teach. Perhaps you are more than we expected." Evan couldn't help but smile back. He felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of pride, not for himself alone, but for humanity. If even a single Illyrian had seen the strength and honesty of humans in him, perhaps the galaxy would begin to see them differently. As the hall slowly returned to normal, Evan realized something else. He had broken the stereotype of the reckless human. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and the unknown and had emerged not only unharmed but respected. Dr. Harrow approached, shaking his head but smiling faintly. "I cannot believe you survived that," he muttered. "You could have caused an interstellar incident. But, somehow, you didn't. Well done, Evan." Kreist. Klong. Klongst. Klong. 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 Evan nodded, still feeling the echo of the ritual in his mind. "It wasn't luck," he said quietly. And in that moment, he understood something powerful. Sometimes courage was not about weapons, strength, or cunning. It was about truth, about being willing to show the world who you really were, even if the world seemed impossibly large, intimidating, or alien. Soraya approached him one last time before leaving the platform. "Remember, human," she said, her voice soft but clear. "The universe rewards those who are honest, brave, and willing to face the unknown. You have these qualities. Do not forget them." Evan watched her glide away, feeling a strange mixture of awe, relief, and hope. He knew that his journey on Calith Prime was only beginning, and somehow, he felt ready for whatever came next. For the first time since arriving, Evan truly believed in humanity and in the idea that one human could make a difference, even in a galaxy full of powerful aliens. And as he stepped off the platform, he felt a spark of excitement. If this was only the beginning, then he could not wait to see what else awaited him in the stars. Even though the ritual had ended peacefully, Evan could feel eyes on him everywhere. Not just the Illyrians, but every species in the room was studying him. Humans were often underestimated, and Evan realized that this moment was more than personal. It was representative of his entire species. He had passed the ritual, but he now understood the responsibility it brought. Every move he made, every word he spoke, would be seen as an example of human courage and honesty. The pressure was immense. Dr. Harrow clapped him on the shoulder, trying to hide his worry. "You handled that well," he said, though his tone carried the faintest trace of disbelief. "Remarkable, actually. Most humans would have collapsed on the spot." Evan nodded, still feeling the after effects of the ritual. The connection with Soraya had left a lingering awareness, a faint echo of emotions that made him feel more alive than ever. He was tired, yes, but also exhilarated. Soraya Valthier returned to the center of the hall and raised her hands slightly. "Attention! Everyone, we have observed a human conduct himself with honesty, courage, and respect in the face of an ancient Illyrian ritual. Let this serve as an example of humanity's potential. Let all present witness that humans, though unpredictable, can be worthy of trust." A ripple of murmurs ran through the room. Some aliens nodded, impressed. Some whispered to each other in disbelief. Evan realized that the ripple was not just curiosity, it was recognition. "Humanity," Soraya continued, "has often been underestimated. Yet today, one human has demonstrated qualities that many species aspire to possess. Perhaps now the galactic concord will begin to understand us not merely as reckless survivors, but as beings capable of integrity and bravery." Evan's chest swelled with pride, but he quickly reminded himself to stay humble. This was diplomacy. After all, pride without control could ruin everything. A Threx ambassador, massive and scaled, stepped forward. "Your actions are..." "I have observed humans for decades. They act without thought, and yet sometimes they succeed where logic fails. Perhaps courage has value." Even the floating orb beings chimed in, their soft tones harmonizing into something like applause. Evan couldn't help but smile. But the moment was interrupted by a minor crisis, a small, yet noticeable disturbance in the hall. A holographic projection of a trade negotiation had begun glitching, sending incorrect information to the delegates. Misunderstandings could quickly turn into conflict. Evan's eyes widened. He might have just survived the Illyrian ritual, but diplomacy did not stop for admiration. Mistakes could escalate into interstellar incidents. He had to act. "Dr. Harrow, we need to fix the projection," he said. "If we don't correct this now, someone might think the humans are sabotaging the talks." Dr. Harrow nodded and moved to the console, but Evan's mind was already racing. He had spent months studying alien tech for just this kind of moment. He approached the console, his fingers flying over the controls. The projection flickered dangerously, but Evan's knowledge of logic, pattern recognition, and human improvisation allowed him to stabilize it. There was a collective sigh of relief from the room. Even Soraya's eyes showed a hint of respect. Human Evan Brooks demonstrates not only courage, but the ability to act under pressure, she said. "This is impressive." "Then," Evan nodded quietly, aware that every word she spoke carried more weight than any compliment. He had just proven, twice in one day, that humans could hold their own among the galaxy's most advanced diplomats. But the day was far from over. After the projection issue was resolved, the Illyrians invited Evan and the human delegation to a private council meeting. The room was smaller, more intimate, and decorated with softly glowing crystals. Here, Evan would meet the council elders, the decision-makers, who controlled the future of interspecies trade, exploration, and diplomacy in the region. Soraya led the way. "These are the elders of the Illyrian Council," she explained quietly to Evan. "You will find them curious, wise, and unafraid to challenge you." Evan nodded. He felt nervous, But the lesson of the morning gave him confidence. Humans survive because they do not give up. Humans adapt. Humans act when others hesitate. The council elders greeted him politely, their faces composed and serene. But Evan sensed the scrutiny in their eyes. They were analyzing him, testing him, wondering if he truly represented humanity. "Human Evan Brooks," said the eldest elder, her skin glowing a soft lavender. "We have heard of your courage today. You faced a sacred Illyrian ritual and acted with honesty. Yet the galaxy is full of dangers. Tell us, why should we trust humans?" Evan took a deep breath. This was the moment to represent his species fully. He could give a diplomatic answer, but he knew that the truth would carry more weight. "Because we try," he said simply. "Humans make mistakes. We are impulsive. We take risks. But we also care. We help each other. We fight for what we believe is right. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we succeed. But we always try. And I believe that is worth trust." The elders studied him silently. The room felt heavy with judgment. Then, slowly, one of the younger elders smiled, a faint curve of lips, almost imperceptible. "Your honesty is rare," the elder said. "Many species hide behind perfection. Humans admit imperfection. Perhaps that is their strength." Evan felt a surge of relief. He had spoken truth, and it had been understood. Soraya nodded approvingly. "You see, human," she said, "courage is not only in facing danger, it is also in speaking the truth, even when it is uncomfortable." The council discussion continued, and Evan found himself participating more than he expected. He offered suggestions for improving trade routes, ensuring fair resource exchange, and even mediating minor disputes between delegations. His ideas were met with cautious approval. Alien species were rarely quick to accept human suggestions, but they listened. By the end of the session, something remarkable had happened. Humans were no longer viewed as reckless outsiders. They were considered capable of insight, honesty, and bravery. As the meeting ended, Soraya leaned slightly toward Evan. "You have done well today," she said. "Not many humans could survive the ritual and then contribute meaningfully to council discussions. You have proven something important, that courage and truth are not limited by species." Evan smiled. "Thank you. I just tried to do my best." "And that," Soraya replied, "is the essence of humanity. You act, you risk, you try. Even when the odds are against you. That is why we watch your species with interest." Evan felt a warmth in his chest, a mixture of pride, humility, and excitement. He realized that his species had potential that even advanced aliens could respect. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also resilient, honest, and courageous. After leaving the council chamber, Evan returned to the main hall. The delegations had begun to mingle again, and whispers of admiration followed him. Aliens who had once dismissed humans as impulsive were now looking at him with curiosity, respect, and perhaps even a hint of caution. Dr. Harrow caught up to him. "You've done something remarkable today, Evan. Not just for yourself, but for all of humanity. Don't forget that. One human can change the way an entire species perceives us." Evan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. "I won't forget," he said quietly. Later, as he walked through the glowing corridors of Calith Prime, he reflected on everything that had happened. He had asked a reckless question. He had faced an ancient ritual. He had gained the respect of one of the galaxy's most powerful diplomats. And he had represented humanity in a way that few humans ever could. He smiled to himself. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but unpredictability had its advantages. They could think differently, act boldly, and connect with others in ways that aliens often could not. They could surprise the galaxy not with weapons or power, but with heart, courage, and honesty. Evan realized that this was the true lesson of the day. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology, not strategy, not even physical prowess. It was the ability to act with courage, compassion, and truth, even when facing the unknown. As he looked out over the glowing towers of Calith Prime, Evan felt a spark of excitement. The galaxy was full of challenges, of mysteries, of species more advanced and more experienced than humans. But if humans could face them with the honesty and bravery he had shown today, there was no limit to what they could achieve. And somewhere deep inside, Evan knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had survived many dangers on Earth, but the universe was a far larger stage. Yet for the first time, Evan felt confident that humans could not only survive, they could thrive, inspire, and earn the respect of the stars themselves. The day had started with fear and uncertainty. It had ended with respect, trust, and a new understanding of what humans could accomplish. And for Evan Brooks, that was more than enough to make him proud of being human. The sun, or what passed for a sun on Calith Prime, was dipping behind the glowing crystal towers when Evan Brooks stepped out onto the observation balcony. From here, he could see the city stretching endlessly, its towers shimmering with light and energy. The sounds of the alien city drifted up from below. Soft musical tones, the low hum of machinery, and the occasional chatter of diplomats walking the streets. Evan inhaled deeply. The past days had been overwhelming. He had arrived as a junior xenocultural analyst, full of nervous energy and uncertainty. But now, after the telepathic ritual with Soraya, after stabilizing the trade projection, and after proving himself in the council chamber, he felt different, confident, human, capable. He thought back to the moment he had blurted out the reckless question, "If I kissed you, how would you react?" The memory made him both cringe and laugh. Quietly, that question had caused chaos, but it had also opened a door that had allowed him to show humanity's courage, honesty, and heart. Behind him, Soraya Valthier appeared silently, her presence graceful as ever. Evan turned to face her, bowing slightly out of habit. "You seem reflective, human Evan Brooks," she said, her voice calm yet warm. "I am," he admitted. "I keep thinking about everything that happened. I didn't expect any of this. I didn't expect to be respected. I didn't even expect to survive the ritual without embarrassing myself." Soraya's eyes glimmered faintly. "It is not survival alone that earns respect. It is how one acts when faced with uncertainty, danger, or judgment. You have shown courage, honesty, and the willingness to face the unknown. That is why others now see humans in a new light." Evan smiled. "So, humans aren't just reckless creatures then?" Soraya tilted her head slightly, a faint curve of a smile appearing on her features. "You are reckless, yes. Unpredictable, yes. But you are also resilient, honest, and capable of inspiring trust. That combination is rare in the galaxy." Evan's heart swelled. He had hoped to prove something about himself, about humans, and now he realized that he had done both. The council chambers had already started sending reports back to their homeworlds. News of Evan's courage and honesty had spread across Calith Prime. Delegates who had once whispered doubts about humanity were now speaking with curiosity and cautious respect. Even Dr. Harrow, who had spent decades working with humans in diplomacy, admitted privately, "I have never seen a human handle such a situation, with both bravery and tact. You've done more for humanity's reputation in one day than many could in a lifetime." Evan chuckled softly, though he felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. Respect was earned, but it could be lost just as easily. He would need to continue proving humanity's worth, not through force, but through courage, honesty. Just then, A soft musical hum echoed across the balcony. Evan turned to see a group of alien children observing the city from a nearby platform. Their eyes were wide with curiosity and wonder, and some of them were pointing toward him. He realized that the story of the human who faced the Illyrian ritual had already reached them. He waved awkwardly, and the children waved back. For a brief moment, Evan saw hope not just for humans, but for interspecies understanding. If one human could inspire curiosity and admiration, perhaps many could inspire cooperation, trust, and friendship across the stars. Saraya's voice broke his thoughts. "Human Evan Brooks," she said softly, "there is one more step you must take before leaving Calith Prime." Evan raised an eyebrow. "Another test?" he asked, though he could feel the excitement building in him. "Not a test," Saraya replied. "A recognition. The Council wishes to honor your courage and the honesty you have shown. You will represent humanity in a new alliance committee, the first of its kind, dedicated to fostering trust and understanding between humans and Illyrians." Evan blinked in surprise. "Me? But I'm just... me? A junior analyst. I'm not a diplomat. I'm not..." "Exactly," Saraya interrupted gently. "Your honesty, courage, and willingness to act despite uncertainty are more valuable than titles. Humans have strength that others often overlook. That is why you have been chosen." Evan felt a rush of pride. He had started this journey as an uncertain junior analyst, but now he had a role that could shape the future of human-alien relations. In the days that followed, Evan worked closely with the Illyrian Council. He attended meetings, offered suggestions, and learned about Illyrian culture in ways he had never imagined. He observed how they negotiated disputes, how they mediated conflicts, and how they valued truth above all else. And slowly, he began to notice something remarkable. Humans were capable of qualities that even advanced alien species admired. Their honesty, adaptability, and courage allowed them to navigate situations where logic alone failed. Their creativity and resilience allowed them to find solutions that others overlooked, and their willingness to take risks, even when imperfectly prepared, earned respect. Evan realized that humanity had something unique to offer the galaxy. Not the largest fleets, not the most advanced technology, but the spirit to act, to care, and to try, no matter the odds. One evening, as he walked through the glowing corridors of the council chambers, Saraya approached him again. "Human Evan Brooks," she said, "you have done more than survive a ritual. You have earned trust. You have shown that humans, while unpredictable, are capable of great integrity and bravery. That is why the Council honors you." Evan smiled, feeling a sense of humility and responsibility. "Thank you, Saraya. I only tried to be honest. I didn't expect to make such a difference." "That is exactly why it matters," Saraya replied. "Courage and truth often come in unexpected forms. And sometimes, it is the smallest actions that have the largest impact." Evan nodded. He realized that this was not just a personal victory. It was a victory for humanity. One human had shown courage and honesty, and the ripple of that action had begun to change perceptions across an entire planet, and perhaps even the galaxy. As the weeks passed, the human delegation gained a reputation for reliability, fairness, and courage. Other species began inviting humans to mediate disputes, consult on trade agreements, and participate in cultural exchanges. Humans were no longer underestimated, they were respected. Evan often thought back to the moment he had asked the reckless question that started it all. If he had kept quiet, if he had followed every rule to the letter, none of this would have happened. Yet, in a strange way, his impulsive curiosity had revealed something fundamental about humanity. Humans were willing to take risks, to speak truth, and to act with courage, even when uncertain. One afternoon, Saraya and Evan stood together on the observation balcony again. The city below glowed softly, and the sky shimmered with alien stars. Do you ever regret it? Soraya asked softly, her gaze thoughtful. Regret what? Evan replied, unsure. The question, she said. The one you asked when you first arrived. The one that started the ritual. Evan laughed quietly. Honestly, sometimes I panic just thinking about it. But no, I don't regret it. It led to this, all of this, and I think humanity needed it. We're unpredictable, yes, but we have heart. We have courage. And sometimes, that's exactly what the galaxy needs. Soraya studied him silently, then smiled faintly. Indeed, human Evan Brooks. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated your species for too long. Perhaps now, it will begin to understand. Evan felt a warmth in his chest. He had not only survived an alien ritual, but had helped humanity earn respect among the stars. For the first time, he felt that humans had a place in the wider galaxy, not just as survivors, but as valued participants, capable of inspiring trust, cooperation, and admiration. As he looked out at the glowing towers and alien diplomats moving through the streets below, Evan realized something profound. Courage, honesty, and integrity were universal values. They transcended species, technology, and culture. And humans, with all their unpredictability and heart, could stand proud among the stars. Evan smiled. Humanity had not only survived in the galaxy, they had begun to earn a reputation that could carry them to greatness. And it all began with one reckless question. One moment of courage, and the willingness to be honest, vulnerable, and brave. As the stars shone above Calith Prime, Evan knew that this was only the beginning. Humans would face challenges, yes, but they had shown that they could rise to them, earn respect, and leave their mark on the galaxy. And for Evan Brooks, the human who had dared to ask a question no one else would, that was a victory far greater than he could have imagined. The galaxy had seen humanity at its best, and it would never underestimate them again.